Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lessons from Leader podcast. Today we have Dan on, who is the founder and owner at Retail Smart Guys. And you've probably seen him in a Jersey Mike's sandwich commercial, maybe even Curb Your Enthusiasm, or the famous HBO show Euphoria. So, Dan, thank you so much for being here. You have an incredible story, a lot of different moving parts, and I'm very excited to get into the weeds with it.
Well, thanks, Jake. It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really excited about this show because we have a lot of people on where we'll kind of tie, lessons learned either in a previous life, if they were a musician, if they were an athlete, and then we talk about how it, you know, gives life to their current endeavors of their career. So
Yeah.
what I really want to start with is, we talked a little about your improv background and your acting background, and now you're getting in these shows, these commercials. How do you feel like those lessons transfer into your business and your day to day?
Well, I'll tell you something interesting about improv. Well, first of all, I studied improv in New York a while ago, and I actually first took it because like it looked like it was fun, and I have a creative. I mean, everybody has a creative side. It's just a question of how dormant that is inside them, right? But everybody does have that. Um, I started to do improv years ago, and then I was one of the co-founders of the National Improv Theater in New York. And we actually discovered while doing that that suddenly at one point, this woman came to our classes, and mostly they had been attended by actors. And this was a different thing. I hadn't, we just didn't know who she was, and she was kind of quiet and whatever. Turns out she was a staff writer for the Wall Street Journal, and she wrote this massive article about the importance of improv for Wall Street. Next thing you know, our classes are just filled with Wall Street brokers. So
Yeah.
we had a lot of that going on, and then um, so that was cool. And then as that evolved, we found there's a whole separate branch of what I still work creatively, as you mentioned, with TV and film and commercials and stuff like that. But I'm also connected to another group called Advantage Improv, and they do improv for corporate environments, right? So they go and they teach it places like Google and Zillow and Microsoft and even smaller companies too. And because improv now is offered in 8 of the top 10 MBA programs as an elective,
Hmm.
because being able to be creative and being spontaneous and being on your feet, and also improv is also a lot about team building and working together as a team and stuff like that, right? So um, between the creative skills and the team building skills that are native to improv, it's really important for business people to have those skills as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it comes down to, a client meeting, negotiation, whatever it may be. You're just
Yeah, or
able.
even just really doing a better job of listening to what your client needs and wants, and doing a better job of providing that for them and understanding what they really need. That's all that is part and parcel of that too.
Hmm. Yeah. And
So
especially with the team building too, because I can only imagine how it is doing improv with a group, bringing everybody into the picture. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like
yeah,
working with.
the core concept of improv is support, right? So if you and I are doing a scene together, I'm not thinking about, how do I be funny, or how do I look good? My entire concept in that is, how do I make you look good, right? And if you're doing it right, your entire thought process is, how do you make me look good, right? And so we're supporting each other no matter what. So sometimes if I've done some live shows with other improv companies and stuff like that, all I know that no matter whatever half-baked, dopey idea I come up with, the rest of that group is going to support it 100%. And that also gives you some freedom to try things that maybe you weren't trying before, and do things that you weren't doing before. There's so many times where people are afraid, especially in corporate meetings or in business meetings, stuff like that, to suggest an idea, because we've all been trained that creative thinking means, um, or I'm sorry, uh, if proper evaluation or critical thinking, right, of an idea means criticizing it, right? So we're in a meeting and you suggest something, and I think the smartest thing for me to do is to tell you all the reasons why it's not going to work, right?
Move on.
But it's actually destructive to creativity. So the whole idea about being in an environment where you're supportive and you're creative and you are, your only focus is how do I make this thing better and more constructive, as opposed to what do I see what's not right in it, right? Suddenly people become more willing and able to be more creative as a result,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So we do a lot of work like that to get that going, to get people thinking in that wise, right? Like how do you, how do you be more supportive, which fosters both creativity and teamwork,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
And I'm sure
And
that
that
really comes into play.
Yeah, and that certainly has spilled over into my work in Retail Smart Guys, as a consultant, and as a group that consults with independent retailers in 18 countries today. Our only focus is how do we help their business? How do we help them grow? How do we help them do better?
Right.
You know?
And when you're sitting down with them, I'm sure that support just continues to come out. It's probably
Yes,
like a second nature to you now.
it becomes second nature for sure. I mean, I think of improv. It's sort of like skiing. Okay, do you ever go skiing, Jake? Are you a skier? Do you like
A
skiing?
little bit. A little
Okay.
bit.
So you're not having skiing, like, especially on the first day, you use muscles you've never used before in your entire life in your legs, right? You're like inner thought, and just like, oh my God, my legs are killing me because it's like muscles I've never used. Improv is like that in that you're using mental acuity and skills that you normally don't use. And so once you get good at that, like skiing, so it's not painful though, fortunately in improv. But once you get used to it, then those skills just kick in naturally, and you're just able to do it without effort, and it makes a difference in how you present. It makes a difference in how people think of you. It makes a difference in how your customers think of you. It makes a difference in how your coworkers think of you. It lightens the load for all of those groups of people.
Mm, right.
So
And I'm sure everybody
pretty
can
critical.
feel it too. Like as you orchestrate conversations, orchestrate teams, like I'm sure people start to gravitate to you when they
Yep.
feel that support.
Yeah. Well, they feel like they've been heard for the first time. You know. So that's part of it too. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um, and it definitely helps. I mean, look, retail in the retail smart guys of things, it's a very complicated, very labor intensive world, and it's also a very emotional world, right? Retailing is more about emotion than anything else. It's about like, well, am I buying the right stuff that resonates, that creates a reaction with my customers? And so those guys need that level of support, but they need to be able to be creative so that their stores do better than they've ever done before,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So that's a big piece of what we do.
Yeah. And talk to me about the business and kind of how you got started and how all of this started to spin up. Like when did you have the idea, know you could help these folks? And talk to me a bit more about how you got
Sure.
started.
Well, for a long time, I was in the point of sale industry. I helped install computer systems into retail stores, um, a lot in the U.S. and internationally too, and with big name people as well. And while doing that, I learned about something called open to buy planning, which is the what we really offer in retail. Open to buy planning means we give them a sales forecast by category, and then we give them an inventory plan that enables them to hit that sales forecast without underbuying and missing sales or overbuying and tying up cash unnecessarily, right? And what I learned as I started to learn more about open to buy planning was that's really how retailers make money. You know, a lot of people get focused on top line sales. They get focused on what am I going to sell? What am I going to sell? What am I going to sell? And that's super important. Don't get me wrong. But in concert with that is the idea that if I can get people to sell but control their inventory better, okay, and control their inventory better and turn their inventory faster, turn it over faster, they become much more profitable,
Mhm.
right? So that's really been my focus. Is once I learned that, I went, okay, we're going to shift over. So next year will be the 20-year anniversary of Retail Smart Guys. And when I shifted over, that's what we did. We shifted over to that, got very focused on that. We worked with retailers like I think I told you before, in 18 countries. Um, Anywhere from single store mom and pop guys doing $250,000 a year up to multi-million dollar, 50 store chains. And um, it's been an amazing ride, and I've learned so many great lessons about how business is created, no matter what happens in any economy, right? Um, business is created by people that decide to create the business, and so we work really hard with our retailers to make that happen.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
and walk me through what a typical engagement looks like. Like when you come in the door, what's that discovery process like? How do you
sure.
continue with them?
So when someone says, I've heard about Open to Buy, or I might be interested in it, or I've heard about you guys, I want to find out more, the first thing we do is a free thing. We do an inventory analysis. So we connect to their system and we run some reports and we analyze, how's their cash flow going? How is their inventory going? How is their receiving going? Et cetera, right? How's their selling going? And we compare them against, we have the largest independent retail database on the planet, right? So we're able to assess that pretty well. Um, and we can kind of see where they're winning, where they're losing, that kind of stuff. We actually do the analysis so that we can see that there is something there for us to do. Okay, that's part of it also. So if there's something that and we always tell people when we do the analysis, listen, I'm going to do this analysis, and if I don't think I can help you, if I don't think there's at least a 3 times ROI, but more likely a 5 times ROI on the service we're providing, we won't even give you a proposal,
Mm,
right? And the idea of that is just simply like, hey, listen, you know what? There's no point in us to, engage if we can't make a significant impact on your bottom line, right? So
yeah.
the engagement starts with that, and then we look at their business and we try to assess where and how we can help them. Then when we meet with them, we're going through like, I think I can help you here, I can help you here, you're underperforming here, you're killing it there though, so keep going with that one. But these are the places we think we can fix. This is what we think the revenue would be to you if we did that, and therefore this is the ROI, right? Um, and I find that if we can do that well, and if they let us do the inventory analysis, we're able to engage with them relatively quickly because everybody, now we're all looking with the same lens of like, how does this work? And it's not me sitting here talking about how great I am, right? How smart I am, how wonderful I am. It's like, hey, listen, I'm looking at your business, and this is what I'd like to fix in your business. So in a sense, we're not selling, we're already consulting, right? And then they get to sort of, get the flavor of what we're doing, you know. So that's what makes it work, I think, is that ability for us to really look and see what they're doing, look and see how that's, where they're winning, where they're losing, and how we can actually help them. And then from there, onboarding them takes a little bit because we're trying to grab their data and bring it into our system, and there's a little bit of mapping, a little bit of data translation, surely a lot of cleanup, that kind of thing. But that's what it takes to get them going. Okay. Uh, um, so I think that's probably uh, what also fuels our excitement too, right? Is that we get fired up about what we can see in a business, and we're excited about opportunity
Hmm.
always.
Yeah.
You know,
And walk me through that, what you said, it's not about me, it's not about what I know. Walk me through what that looks like when you engage with a client. Making it again, it's like the improv. It's support and kind of
right?
making them feel like they're a part of it. When did you really get that lesson and learn that, it
Well,
really is all about them?
so very early on, it's a great story. But very early on, in my career as a open to buy planner, I'm working with a retailer, single store guy. I'm going through the open to buy plan with them. Hey, here's where you've got too much inventory. Here's where you need to buy more. Here's how much you should buy. This is what you should do here, et cetera, blah, blah, that kind of thing. I go through the whole plan, happy guy going through it, and I get to the end and I go, good. So there you go. There's your budgets. There's your open to buy. That's what you got to spend on merchandise. That's what you got to do. Okay. How you doing? And then he goes, the plan is great. Makes total sense, except that I have no money and I'm not even sure how I'm going to feed my family this month. Right. And
Mm,
all the color went out of my face. And I was like, oh my God. And I realized at that moment, I've got to do something different, right? So now we go through the plan again. But now we start looking at, okay, well, what inventory can we liquidate to get you some cash in? How do we negotiate with vendors to get you some new inventory and get them willing to sort of sit back on payments a little bit while you catch up and get that done? And I kind of put him on life support for a couple of months just to get his business built up to where it needed to be. And I realized at that moment that it wasn't just about delivering numbers to a guy, right? I held his business and his family in my hands. And at that moment in time, I went, you know what? This is a bigger responsibility than just reading someone their numbers like I was like a junior accountant delivering taxes to the guy. This is me going, okay, I've got to generate this level of profit so that you can live, right? And now as we do that, like, we look at what are these guys' goals. You talk to a retailer often, it's like, well, what do you want to do with the business? Well, I wish I could remodel. I'd like to buy more expensive marketing. I'd like to hire another salesperson, blah, 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 all these things they want money for, right? And if we can help them turn their inventory faster, that's where that cash is going to make its way through so that they can spend money on those things, right?
Mhm.
Eric Schmidt was the CEO of Google for about a decade, and he's attributed with the quote that revenue solves all business problems, right? Now I've heard that before. I actually had a CPA that said it long before he said it, but
Mhm.
it is true that no whatever problem people have in their business, they can solve it if they can generate more net revenue, not gross revenue, but net revenue, right? And so our
Mhm.
whole function is that: how do we generate more net revenue?
Mhm.
Okay. Um, um, so there you go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's all about that deep discovery and just asking questions and
And making sure we're aligned and that and that, we have the same goals and stuff like that. So
mhm. Right. Right. And for your guys when you come in, I know you have very deep data analysis system, everything that you run with them. But where do you typically see the biggest pain points in all of your clients across 18 countries? What are they seeing as the biggest pain points in their business?
they a lot of times we see what's happening is like they're working, they're getting some decent selling, but they don't see enough profit drop to the bottom line. And typically it's because look, in a retail store, inventory is their biggest investment, right? They spend more money on inventory than anything else, more than rent, more than people, more than utilities, more than marketing, more than anything, right? So to the degree that we can curate and help them manicure and curate that inventory so that they have the right inventory at the right place at the right time. That's how we can help them make money. But for sure, you know, a lot of times these guys go to trade shows and they go, um, oh, I could sell that. Oh, I could sell that. I could sell that. That's cool. I think that's really good, right? But what they're not thinking about is how much can I sell and where do I want to end the season or end the quarter or end the year or that kind of thing. And that's what planning helps them do is not only figure out what can I sell, but where should I end up so that I've cashed out of that inventory and now have cash available to buy next season's inventory and do it all over again and continue to magnify that, right? Um, and so that's something we've measured very, very carefully. What's their sales in relation to their inventory? How is that going? What's working? What's not working, etc.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's definitely the hugest piece of what. That's probably the biggest piece. Now, how that happens from one business to another is really different because differences are all these businesses are different and they do different things in different ways and stuff like that. But that is the commonality is too much inventory and too much older inventory,
Mm, right. And
right?
from your experience and working, up to 20 years and then additional years in retail, what do you feel or what would you like to tell the top five most important things or top five learnings that retailers should pay attention to, either as they're
Well,
getting
no,
started or
number one is it's not random. You have to have a plan. Okay, you have to um, you have to plan what you're going to sell, when you're going to sell it, and when you're going to be out of it. Right. Number two, I would say is old inventory is not your friend. Okay. Um, we always say if your customer comes in this month and sees what they saw last month, they're not coming next month, right? And the crazy thing about old inventory, besides the fact that you have cash tied up in it, um, but besides the fact that it affects your marketing, because if your customer sees old goods, they're not coming back. But besides the fact that it's disheartening for you to look at, right? Because you're like, oh my God, this stuff is still here. What's going to take to go away? They're also paying tax on it because it affects their cost of goods sold.
mm,
So if those first three weren't insulting enough, the last one's the worst, right? They're also paying tax on it. Okay. So definitely get their old inventory. I would say number three is they all work on these point of sale systems where they get data out of their point of sale system, or they're using their point of sale to buy, receive, and sell inventory. Most of them only run selling reports and they don't run any of the other reports that are in there. And I think you got to explore and really dig into what your point of sale can offer you because there's some important data, hiding in there. We spend some time on that to make sure they really look for other things. As an example, a lot of times people like to run bestseller reports and they look at who's number one and they go, oh, yeah, I did that. I pat myself on the back and do that. But the value of a bestseller report is not who's number one, which you could probably predict if you're a good retailer. It's who's number four, who's number five, who's who's doing well for me, and maybe if I focused on them and really figured out what was going right there, maybe I could make more money there, right? So that's three. Number four, I would say, is um, take more time to train your staff. I find there's a lot of instances where they just throw people onto the floor or they have them follow someone who's been there for years, and that's about the extent of their training. And then they pick up all the bad habits of the guy they're following around, right? I think the really important thing in that regard is to make sure that we have um um we have a really good training program that really teaches them how to sell, how to engage with the people that walk through the door and really creates a personality of the store, right? Um, and number five, I would say, is probably when they start thinking about marketing, you have to look at the ROI of each of the marketing aspects that you put in. Like I will tell you this, in brick and mortar retail, it's been true for years. It's still true today. The number one driver of sales in brick and mortar retail is email marketing.
Mm,
It is the number one. So, sometimes people get all wrapped up in social media, what they're doing in social media, and you got to do all that stuff, right? I mean, everybody's got to be doing social media stuff. The only business that probably can't do social media is a blacksmith. You know what I mean? But everybody else has to be online. They got to be doing that stuff, right?
right. Yeah.
Um, and your customer is going to see that, and it sort of like gives them sort of a little bit like, all right, now I know who they are, I know what their personality is, and stuff like that. But email is the one that actually gets them to walk in the door and do stuff. Um, and I also tell them on social media, which kind of relates to some of the stuff that you do, Jake. Uh, they need to do stuff that expresses what their personality is as a store, right?
Yes. Yep.
People don't want to buy from a generic company. They want to buy from Jake, right? And so, the more that they can actually do things and create some interesting collateral and videos and stuff like that that really shows who they are and what their what their slice of heaven looks like and what their story is and that kind of stuff. The more they do that, the more they have a chance to really win customers and get people in. The more generic they are, and the more sort of like trying to sell to everybody as opposed to trying to sell to who their real niche is. Um, Selling to everybody means selling to nobody.
Yeah.
So
And we
that's
always say it's that building trust because we're almost in a we call it like a trust recession, as people are automating messages, automating content, creating all this stuff. When you see somebody who's a real person on the other end, that's when it's, oh, I can trust this person. I bet if I go in the store, if I run into them, we have a
yeah.
great conversation. Um, and again, too, we always relate the marketing world right now to a pinball machine where social media is here, maybe a billboard's there, maybe a sign is here, and then an email goes and they say, oh, you know what? I haven't been there in a while. Go in, go to the store.
Right.
And so there's all these different points now. Whereas
Sure.
maybe hey, we're gonna get a catalog in the mail. Oh, I should probably go in. I'm gonna buy something. So it's that how do you hit everybody at each
Well,
point?
like take like a basic women's clothing store, right? There's no such thing as a basic women's clothing store. They have different price points. They have different age groups they service, although that line's a little blurry. But they have different age groups they service. They have different style, different intent. Some are casual, some are more dressy, some are more, that kind of thing. And the ownership of that has to basically say, this is why I'm doing this. This is what my passion is. People are attracted to passion, right? they like to see passionate people, and they like to see people that are, and we learned, by the way, as we all came out of COVID, right, that the world didn't feel like it was safe until the independent retailers said it's okay, come back and shop us, right?
Sure.
So uh, they are pillars in their community, and they need to look at their store as that, right? So, and people want to see them. They want to see what they're doing. They want to see what's going on at the store. They want to see, how things are going and stuff like that. And they want to hear their stories. And they like it when, if a retailer's at a trade show and they say, I'm thinking about buying this, what do you guys think? And let them chime in and talk about it. Like, all that stuff is kind of cool. So I think the more that they do that, the better it's going to be for all.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Well, man, this has been great. I think anybody listening who has a retail shop or is interested in improv or acting is going to get a lot of value out of it. So I'd love to leave it up to you. Where can people find you? What are you up to?
Sure.
Uh,
Um,
everything.
my email is Dan at retailsmartguys with an S at the end.com. Um, and by the way, um, I take that very seriously. I don't go to bed at night unless my inbox is empty, which is
Yeah.
very, most people are just like, oh, I couldn't do that. But you know what? If people write to me, I figure it's not because they're looking for a new chocolate chip cookie recipe. They're writing to me because they need something, and we want to make sure we're there to help them, right? So, email Dan at retailsmartguys.com or my cell phone, 818-720-2585. I have no problem putting my cell phone out there. I mean, the point of having a phone is that people call you, right? So
Mhm.
I know some people try to hide their cell phones. I'm just like, what are you doing that for? So
Yeah.
um, I am a big believer in that. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go.
Awesome. Awesome, man.
Okay.
Well, really appreciate you taking the time. This is going to be awesome. I already know a few people who I'm going to send it to,
Well,
but
yeah. Hey, Jake, thank you for your time too, and for all that you're doing. You have a great podcast here, and it's getting more and more popular as it deserves to be. So, congratulations on that, and continued future success to you too, sir.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody.